early childhood development. Each week we talk about a different stage of children development and what children need. And now, here comes your host.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Taryn, and you are listening to The Parent Thing. This week, we are talking about W sitting. I will tell you all about what it is, how you can identify it, and why I am flagging it as a potential red flag in your child's physical development. Okie dokie, let's get right into it. What is W sitting? W sitting is when a toddler or a child sits down on the ground and their legs form the shape of a W when you are looking at them. So basically, both feet will be pointing to the back on either side of their bodies and their knees come together in the front and their legs form a W. I will post a picture of one of my students sitting in a W position so that you can have a look at it and be able to identify when a child is sitting in this position. Children have a wider range of motion and more internal hip rotation than adults do. So it's easy for them to sit in a W position, and it's also quite comfortable when they're younger for them to sit in a W position. The reason it is comfortable for them to sit like that is because with their legs out to the side of them, it gives them a wider support base, so it doesn't take much core strength or effort to be able to sit upright. It is a very natural and normal thing for a child to default to this position when they are younger. It does become a concern, however, when they sit like this too often, and that's the only position that they tend to sit in. If you notice that your child defaults to a W sitting position and has trouble sitting on the floor in any other position, and when I say trouble sitting, I mean trouble sitting upright with their back straight up, this could be a sign that there is a core, gross motor, or fine motor development issue. They may sit like this because the muscles in their legs and core are weaker. That could also be an indicator that they have low muscle tone. Okay, so let's talk about some problems that are associated with W sitting, and we will then get into some exercises and activities that can be done to avoid children defaulting to W sitting. As I mentioned earlier, when a child sits in a W position, their legs in that position gives them a wider support base, and it doesn't take much core strength for them to be able to sit upright. What this then does is it gives them a limited range of motion. So they are then unable to move around freely in that position, and it will also inhibit them from reaching from side to side. This then causes trouble or difficulty with bilateral coordination. Bilateral coordination essentially is the ability to use both sides of your body simultaneously. Bilateral coordination is an important developmental milestone because so many everyday activities are dependent on being able to use both sides of your body at the same time. Walking, for example, 100% is dependent on bilateral coordination, being able to put one foot forward and the opposite hand forward, and then swapping that in that swinging motion to propel you forward. That is bilateral coordination. Being able to write, being able to cut, being able to manipulate objects like tying your lace, fastening a button, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair. All these activities that are done daily is dependent on bilateral coordination. Hand dominance, strength, and dexterity can also be affected. I mentioned before that when children W sit, their core muscles don't do much. So the main source of support comes from their leg muscles. Just like any other muscle, when you exercise it, it strengthens. But what happens in a W sitting position is that those muscles are strengthened in that W position. So their internal hip flexors are rotated inwards on either side and the muscles tighten in that position. So what happens is their range of motion in their legs now become limited too. So not just in the core from being able to turn side to side and reach for things, but also their leg muscles are tightened in that position because it's strengthened, right? It's holding them up, it is supporting them. With the muscles being tightened and the hips being rotated inwards, a pigeon toe problem can be created. That means that the children will have problems walking. They could trip over their own feet. They could have trouble with running and coordinating running. They can have problems with climbing, like if they're playing out at a park on a jungle gym or even trying to climb up onto the bed. They may not be able to rotate their hips outward to be able to get that strength that they need to be able to lift themselves and pull themselves up onto something. And even jumping can become a problem because their legs are faced inwards. A long-term effect of being pigeon-toed could be that there will be joint problems in adulthood. So this is why we want to avoid children sitting in a W position. You can start noticing when a child defaults to W sitting after they start walking and they can comfortably sit down and stand up on their own. So I would say start watching out for W sitting from around the age of 2. W sitting is not a concern if you notice that your child gets in and out of the position very easily. If they sit with one leg behind them and the other one is forward, so like half a W, a V, I guess. If they sit like that, that's not a concern. If they sit with both their feet flat on the floor and they kind of are squatting, crouching, but it still looks like a W, but their butts are not flat on the floor, that's not a concern. If they are in a W position and you say to them, put your legs out straight, and they easily maneuver themselves into that position, I would not be too concerned about low muscle tone and an underdeveloped core. But if you do notice that it is difficult for them to sit in any other position, it's difficult for them to move easily out of a W sitting position, that's when you need to do more activities with them that would strengthen their core so that they don't need to sit in a W position to keep themselves comfortable when sitting upright. If your child is a W sitter, I would encourage you to be very encouraging as opposed to dictating when asking them to sit in another position. So instead of saying sit properly as if they are doing something wrong, you can ask them to bring their legs out. Alternative ways of sitting would be the crisscross applesauce, where they cross their legs in front of them. They could sit with their legs, both legs straight out in front of them. They could sit with both legs on the same side, either side of their body, as long as both legs are on the same side. And as I said earlier, if they have one foot behind them and the other one is comfortably in the front of them, that is okay too. So if you do see your child in a W position, just gently ask them to bring their legs out and practice sitting in a different position. If that's their default and that's how they are used to sitting, it's going to take multiple gentle reminders. I have some students in my class that sit like that, and at this point, if they are sitting like that and I just call their name, they will automatically bring their legs out because they know what I'm going to say. Please bring your legs out. That's how I ask them, and it works. I don't tell them that they're doing something wrong or that they shouldn't be sitting like that, because it could cause a bit of a complex and them thinking that something could be wrong with them. If you still have a younger child that's not yet walking or not yet comfortably sitting down and standing up by themselves, there are 2 great things that kids need to do that can build up core muscle strength and prevent W sitting when they do get to that age. Both of these are going to have their own episodes. Spoiler alert, next week's episode is on tummy time, and tummy time is definitely one way of developing core muscles to prevent them from W sitting. And the second prevention is crawling. Crawling is uber important. This is going to have its own episode as well, and why a walking ring is not a great thing. Stay tuned for that one in the next few weeks. But anyway, I digressed. Let's get back to exercises that you can do to build core muscles that will make it easier for a child to sit in a position that is not a W. So climbing, as I said, is a great exercise for developing core muscle strength. Often children want to climb on gates and some inappropriate things, and they get told, no, don't climb, don't do that. Climbing in itself is not wrong, but there are appropriate places to climb. So having your child climb is a great way to strengthen core muscles. Another good activity is swinging. The pumping action, them being able to pump a swing by themselves, is a core muscle exercise, strengthens them and gives them so much confidence, and it's so exciting to see how excited they get. Look how high I can go! And it's so encouraging to see them being so free and so confident, but also at the same time developing core muscles. Another firm favorite, approved by little people all around the world, is a bicycle. So when they're younger, pedaling is not an option because their muscles have not yet developed. The legs and the core has not yet developed to be able to pedal. So there is a good progression when it comes to bicycles. They start off with a push bike where they can push the bike to move it forward with both their feet, not needing any pedals, and then progressing to a tricycle, and then progressing to a bicycle with training wheels, and then eventually having the core muscle strength to be able to balance and ride a bicycle on just the two wheels. So a bicycle, as they grow through every stage of development, is always a good idea for core strength development. Again, a firm favorite, give a child water, put a child in water, and you have a happy human for a very, very long time. So swimming and swimming lessons also form part of core development and is a great activity to do. Regular jumping, hopping, skipping, running, all the fun things that keep them busy and burn energy. Keep doing that with your children. Having them learn to balance on a low balance beam, one foot in front of the other, arms out. You cannot balance without core muscles, and so this definitely builds up core muscle strength. Any kind of ball game, catching, kicking, dodgeball, anything with a ball, get it, do it, have fun with it, and core muscles are being developed. I once had a student that did have low muscle tone and was seeing an occupational therapist for muscle development. There was a game that she played with him that he came and taught our class, and it is a huge hit, but also so great for core muscle development, and it's called the Superhero Game. So basically we have Batman, we have Superman, and the Flash. This is a great core muscle development game, but also it allows children to listen to and follow instructions. Man, it's just so much fun. So let me explain the game to you. Like I said, it's the superheroes. You call a command and the children follow the command. When you call Batman, they hit the deck, meaning they drop down to the floor, belly on the floor, and they lift their legs up off the floor and put their arms behind them, lifting their chest off the floor. So basically, the only body part that should be on the floor is their belly. So it takes all that strength to lift their chest up, put their arms behind their back, and lift their feet up off the floor, and they stay like that for a little bit. Then you call Superman, and it's the same thing, only their arms come out in front of them now. So they transition from having their arms behind them to the front of them. Their chest is still up and their legs are still up off the ground. So again, the only body part that's on the floor is their bellies. And then you call the Flash, which means they got to get back up on their feet and run as fast as they can in place if you're doing it indoors. And if they're outdoors, they can run wild outside. And when you call Batman, back down on the ground, chest up, legs up, arms backward. Call Superman, chest up, legs up, arms forward off the ground, and the Flash, get up and run. This game is so much fun because they have to think. They have to think, oh my gosh, what is Superman? What is Batman? And try to get the moves right as well as strengthen their core. It is a hoot. Kids absolutely love it. You can also have your child do organized sports such as dance classes, gymnastics, soccer, rugby, football, basketball. Basically, any organized sport is an option for muscle and core muscle development. These are just some basic ideas that you can do in order to help develop your child's gross motor muscles. The list can go on and I can give ideas for days. But the bottom line is that play is important. All these activities are fun activities. It is playing with your child or allowing your child to play, and this is how muscles are developed. That's the best way to prevent them needing to sit in a W position. And that is what W sitting is all about. Thank you so much for listening and popping back by. Please tune in again next week when we talk about tummy time, and I will see you then. Bye!
Thank you for tuning into the Parenting. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any questions, feedback, or content suggestions, please email us at Taryn@theparenting.com. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and give my aunt a 5-star rating. Come back again